You want to be fair.
With a deadly sting. Ordinary men who did an extraordinary job, blowing up airports, capturing convoys and fuel dumps, hundreds, sometimes thousands of kilometres behind enemy lines. They played a key role in the Allied victory in the Desert War. And the originals chosen for the job were nearly all Kiwis. 60 years ago this month they started. 60 years on, they're being honoured by the unit that has inherited their role. The SAS doesn't let just anyone inside its fortified headquarters, but these men are special. They're the survivors of the legendary long-range desert group. Today, almost 60 years after these old Kiwi nomads went into battle, they're being adopted by the SAS, the unit they preceded. Most are over 80 now, those that remain. Kiwis like Buster Gibb, one of the original patrol members. Frank White, Charlie Upton's cobber. At 90, he's the oldest. If we were to list the honours these blokes had, well, we'd be here all night.
We are truly honoured to be able to establish a link with your association.
SAS Colonel Ted Keating.
The recruitment campaign for men to join the force stated that only men who did not mind a hard life with scanty food, little water and lots of discomfort, men who possess stamina and initiative need apply.
I said, yeah, too right, I want to go. I wanted the adventure, you know.
Alf Saunders was one of the originals. He was a 20-year-old kid, a hard-case Kiwi lad, when he volunteered for war, off to Egypt with the New Zealand Division. He left his sweetheart Pearl behind in Auckland. And was he a rebel?
Well, I don't think so. No. He's a pussycat now, that's the main thing.
Thank you very much.
Alf wouldn't have been so cocky if he had known he was about to spend 2 years in this, the Great Sand Sea, one of the most inhospitable regions on Earth. Thousands of square kilometres of desert, temperatures in the 40s during the day, plunging to below zero at night. Back in the 1930s, it was thought no one could exist here, let alone cross it. But this man, British Major Ralph Bagnold, was determined to show otherwise. In the 1930s, Bagnold was part of an expedition that had explored the Libyan desert in Model T Fords. He knew that trucks were capable of crossing the sand seas.
He stuttered a lot, but he sure knew his oats about the desert. Yeah, because we didn't know what the digging the sand sea was, anyway. But we found out.
With the Italian army rapidly advancing, Ralph Bagnold came up with an audacious plan to take them by surprise. A plan so dangerous, it needed a certain type of man to carry it out. The British Army commander in Cairo reckoned hardy outdoor types, like those sheep farmers from New Zealand, would be ideal.
The boys are eager to stretch their legs on this desert they've heard about.
I suppose that's why they got us in the first place. We were pretty adaptable jokers. There was no need for... We could do anything we were asked to do, and we just went and did it. We didn't have to get trained or coaxed or do. We just went and did it.
Hundreds volunteered, 75 Kiwis were picked. With a group of English officers in charge, in August 1940, they drove off into the unknown. In cut-down Chevy trucks depicted in countless movies, they headed off across the dunes.
Sometimes when we went out on a patrol, they'd hand the navigator a couple of sheets of blank paper with just grid lines on it.
First, they had to drive over those treacherous dunes. Was there a special technique in getting over?
Yes, had to keep speed up. And the only thing that we learnt very quickly was you didn't follow in each other's wheel marks.
How did you get them out of the sand when they did get in that liquid sand?
Well, you dug a bit out of the front of the back wheel, driving wheels, and then you slid your sand channel in the metal part, right into the tyre and underneath. Then the driver would give her the herbs, flat out.
But it wasn't just the soft sands that they were up against.
Everywhere we went on a patrol, We'd stop at 11 o'clock. You couldn't drive because the sun was approximately overhead and there's no horizon. It's all just one white glare. You couldn't see 3 or 4 feet in front of you.
As if battling the elements wasn't aggravation enough, relations between the Kiwis and their British officers were at breaking point. One officer, Captain Mitford, nearly didn't make it.
Initially, they were proper shits, and Mitford, he was close to being shot by the boys in the patrol.
Buster Gibb was also on that first patrol.
His attitude left a lot to be desired.
So you straightened him out, did you?
Oh, he was lucky. He was lucky to live, actually.
Captain Mitford, in the finish in W Patrol, he became more Kiwi than we were. That's the highest praise I can give him.
Yeah.
But when he first got there, boy, was he tough.
But they hadn't come all that way to end up fighting each other. They were on a mission. After 9 days travelling the uncharted sand sea, they'd arrived at the war. They'd surprised an Italian convoy en route to the front. It was their first time in action and the end of their war with each other.
Captain Mitford thought we were wonderful. We thought he was just the cat's pajamas.
Yeah.
You know? It's just changed like that, just a flack like that.
Yeah.
Just for going into the, I suppose it's going into danger together.
Alf's patrol had captured a convoy carrying mail, grog and jewellery. Some of that jewellery found its way back to Pearl in Auckland.
They're booty from an Italian convoy.
Well, I don't know, but we could say they probably were, but he didn't tell me that.
She thinks I bought them out of my hard-earned pay. Somebody opened one of these great big boxes and it was full of this sort of jewellery.
But Buster Gibb seems to have been more interested in a drinking competition with the captured cognac.
And, I suppose over a period of 2.5 hours, he drank 5, I drank 5, he flaked out, Clarkie Waitford dragged him away to his bed, and I said, look at him, he reckoned he can drink me under the table, I'll show the bugger.
Somehow they all survived, and the patrol continued to wage its lonely war behind enemy lines. By now, the Italian generals at the front were worried.
You get a fort behind your own lines, in your lines, naturally you think they're safe, don't you? Well, if some crowd comes in and attacks it, you start to think, where are we safe?
The patrol's daring operation had worked. The Italians halted their advance into Egypt.
800, 1,200 miles behind the lines and playing hell with your rear areas. What else would it be? Complete chaos.
Of course, the Kiwis took a few hits themselves, but it wasn't their own health that they were most worried about.
The vehicles, they were our main concern, more than our mates, because you relied on that vehicle. When you're hundreds of miles from your base, that's the only way you've got to going back, because you couldn't carry enough water and tucker to get you there.
The New Zealanders weren't left alone out there. They were joined by British and Rhodesian troops when the patrol was enlarged to form the long-range desert group. But the Italians were also reinforced by German Field Marshal Erwin Rommel's Africa Corps.
The Germans and the Italians had a good go at a few of the trucks, didn't they, with the aircraft?
Oh, yes, they used to try and shoot them up now and again, but they weren't very successful. I don't know anyone actually got... Oh, it might have been in the Barce raid. They got a few those days there.
The raid on the Italian airfield at Barce was the Desert Scorpion's most successful attack. The stuff of movies.
There was only 15 men.
Yeah.
And what we achieved there was on that aerodrome for an hour, and they were firing at us all the time and nobody got hit.
Merlin Craw was one of those courageous Kiwis in the raid on Barce airfield.
That was amazing, really, and we destroyed 35 planes on that drone.
How did you destroy the planes?
They went round one behind the other and fired on the planes and set them alight. So it was an unsettled light. I had bombs rushed out and put on the petrol tanks and blew them up.
Merlin Craw was captured as the patrol retreated and spent a year in an Italian prisoner of war camp. He escaped twice. The raid at Barset and others like it helped to cut Rommel's vital supply lines. More aircraft were destroyed by the LRDG and the British SAS on the ground than were destroyed in the air. And by May 1943, Rommel's army had been driven out of Africa.
You talk about the adventures, but you haven't talked about the gruesome things that you've obviously seen. Do you find that difficult?
No, well, we don't want to talk about it. If we talk about it, we remember them too vividly. So we just blank them out, if possible. Oh, I've had 3 or 4 blokes killed right alongside me. And you get hardened. And you think, better you than me, mate. But then you break down sometime later on, when it's all over.
But Alf Saunders was one of the lucky ones. He made it back home again, and he married his sweetheart, Pearl. Others weren't so fortunate.
Corporal F.R. Beach, M.I.D. Trooper J.T. Bowler. Sergeant E.J. Dobson.
This week, the survivors of the Kiwi patrols remembered their 17 comrades left behind on the battlefield.
Trooper H.L. Mallet.
Of the 325 Kiwis who served with the long-range desert group, today only 58 remain. 82-year-old Alf Saunders is one of them.
You know, I've got a good life, no regrets in my life. I could have been a rat bag, I suppose, if I hadn't have had the... You see, all the influence of your cobbers moulds your character. I don't think I had a character before I went away to the war. Like the young kids today. Something serious has got to happen to them before they get stabilised in a character, I reckon. Does that sound stupid?